Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in today's video we are going to look at a Ruger 1022. Now if there's one firearm that I've probably looked at and covered the most on my channel, it is the Ruger 1022. My 22 LR Ruger 1022 has quickly become my favorite firearm. I love it. It's just flexible, versatile. It has a ton of aftermarket support. It is a fantastic firearm. But in today's video, we are going to look at the air rifle BB version. So this is .177 or 4.5 millimeter BB. Leveraging air cartridges, this is going to be fantastic. Now, this should have some advantages for me. There are a lot of things that I do on my channel, and as I mentioned with my 22 LR version, there's a ton of aftermarket support and many different things that I do want to try, but I can't always get to the range. I can't always effectively shoot, but with the BB version, it will give me a little bit of additional flexibility at different points in time. So whether or not things like, for example, testing out different scopes and different optic systems or even lights and in some cases different stands or the ability just to try different things out while I'm here at home, this will be a great advantage. So what I'm hoping is getting into this, I'm going to find that there are enough similarities between this BB version that it's going to give me the flexibility that I'm looking for with the ability to both shoot this at home but also test some accessories. But with that said, I have a whole bunch to do and a whole bunch to share with you, and if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to get into, do me a favor, stay tuned. Now again, the Ruger 1022 in .177 or 4.5 millimeter BB. I said at length at the intro that I was going to test out and try a whole bunch of different things, but first we have to get into this to see if that's even going to be a viable option. And so here, as we get into it, this is a Ruger licensed product, but it is manufactured by Umarex. Now, if you do a little bit of web research, you'll notice that Umarex does manufacture a number of air rifles for a bunch of different brands. And in this case, the Ruger, in this case, the 1022, and as you can see, the air rifle. Now, the first thing, we're going to get into this. And taking a look here, you will notice this is in the color black. Now, I have seen what I thought was more of a gray color. I'm not sure if this comes in different variants, but this one here in black. So well packaged with a magazine and a user's manual. Now just briefly on the box, you will see this has some technical specifications. So this could potentially go to approximately 700 feet per second leveraging alloy BBs. Now I don't have this particular shape. These are a little cupped in the back. Now mine are more of the round spherical BBs, but here you can see 700 feet per second using alloy, 650 feet per second using lead. Again, the caliber .177 or 4.5 millimeter. The overall length of the rifle, 37 inches. The barrel at 18.25 inches. This weighing in at 4.5 pounds. And the trigger pull at double action, they're saying 10 pounds, single action 3.75 pounds, has a manual safety, the length of pull 13.5 inches, 10 round capacity, and they're saying the dangerous distance about 475 yards. But again, this Ruger 1022 air rifle looking almost identical to my factory stock. There are some subtle differences, of course, but at the same time, very similar. And the nice thing is, when you're trying to build some muscle memory, or you're trying to do some different things that really give you the practice that you need, it is nice to have something that simulates your actual firearm. And so here, we're going to take a look at this real briefly. Let's remove the tag here. Now, my personal 22 LR 1022 is the takedown version. So the stock itself is going to vary. I have swapped mine out from the factory stock and now into an aftermarket. But you can see here, very similar. You have the ability to change out the band, which I do expect I'm going to do for some accessories. The actual trigger is close to the original factory, and I'm going to say close. You'll see you end up with your mag release, your manual safety, and then the trigger itself. But look how close the trigger is to the edge of the trigger guard. In this case, you'll notice you have your mag release, the manual safety, which does have the little red is dead indicator, but your trigger a little bit further back. So I'm not sure if that's going to be really how this is once we get this into field use. It does look to be a little bit further out on the finger as I reach in, but we'll see how that goes. But everything else, very, very similar. You end up with the same receiver and the same receiver bolt pattern. That's going to be cool because I should be able to put a pick rail on top, and that's going to be instrumental in my ability to leverage different optics. Like for example, when you see my actual 1022, you'll see, as I mentioned, in an aftermarket stock, I do have a pick rail on top. Now I have another one of these. I am going to leverage this on top of the BB, which would be nice, and we'll see how that goes. The other thing that's interesting, notice the iron sights. So you end up with your rear sight and your front sight. The front sight being a little bead. Well, on the BB version, again, your rear sight and the front sight being the bead. It's even gold tipped, almost identical as the actual factory 1022. That is awesome. Notice the charging handle on the side has that little curve on the original. Literally almost identical on the BB version. So again, the idea being you can practice with this, gain some muscle memory. It's going to be very repeatable result going from the BB version all the way through your actual ammo powered firearm. So really, really cool. And just briefly looking at the barrel itself also almost an identical diameter. I mean, very, very close. So everything about this fully simulating the factory stock Ruger 1022, which I love. And in addition, taking it a step further, looking at the original 22LR magazine, you can see here, the magazine square fits in right in the bottom of the receiver. Well, very similar. Actually, if you were to look at these from the bottom, it would actually be fairly hard to tell the difference at an initial glimpse. Now, obviously, once you flip these over, vastly different and actually very much lighter on the BB version. Very much lighter. And I'm curious, and I don't have the answer, and I probably won't. And I'll try to do a little bit of research and annotate below. But my question would be, is the actual BB version of the Ruger 1022 the same overall weight as the original factory stock? And again, I have the takedown version, but I'm going to say it's not. It's definitely going to be a little bit different. And even if it weighed exactly the same, the weight distribution would be different. The butt end of the factory Ruger 1022 stock, extremely lightweight. There's a lot going on in the back end of the BB version, and that is pretty much because that's where your CO2 cartridges go. So the CO2 cartridges get loaded into the back end of this. So there is some mechanics in there, and it makes it a little bit heavier. Which, speaking to that, these are 12-gram CO2 cartridges. You do operate this leveraging 2 of them in the back end of the rifle. Now here, as we get into this, you can see kind of best off having a coin. I don't know if I can do this by hand, but looks like I can. Spinning this over to the open position and popping off the cap. So I was able to do that without any tools. This does convert basically to a wrench, and you put it inside here. Now the piece inside is considered to be the CO2 piercing screw. So I'm backing this off, and you can see now that pulls out very easy. Now you are supposed to use an air chamber lube. I do have a single little drop here, just very simple. Little drop of silicone lubrication. Putting the first cartridge in, that goes in this direction. Another drop of lube. This goes in facing backwards, so opposite directions. Another little drop of silicone on this little gasket. So just spreading that around. And now reinstalling this into the back end of the rifle. I'm going to screw this back into place, and I should hear the CO2. Let's see what happens. Okay. So it's no longer leaking. You heard that little bit of seepage there. Sliding the handle back into place and then spinning that again. You can do that by hand. So visually checking, no magazine. Everything appears to be clear. pointing in a safe direction, taking off the safety. There you go. So functionally, seems to be working. At this point, let's talk about the magazine. So again, as I mentioned, I do have spherical BBs. I'm going to leverage these. I'm not sure exactly how fast the muzzle velocity is going to be on this. I can't really tell. There's no real way to truly say. However, taking a look at the magazine here, you can see this is a 10 round capacity. Now you can remove the cylinder here by leveraging this little lever. There's a small lever there, and these do come out. I think for me personally, it's going to be just as easy to leave that in, lay the magazine down, and just feed the BBs in this way. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. And so again, just placing these down and inside. It's just going to be a little bit finicky. You could get yourself a BB pen, which I know is something that a lot of people do. I just personally don't have one yet, nor do I know if it's something that I would truly need. So I'm just going to take a second here, load this up, and we'll give this thing a quick little test. Now real quick, before I do that, I did want to check the spacing on this rail. So getting this on top, you can see this will align. So taking a look through there, all the holes align, no problem. I have my bolts. Now I'm not going to put this on just yet because if you know the 1022, the rail does get in the way of your iron sights. So I'm going to practice right now with the iron sights, try to get a few shots on target just to feel this out. But in the future, leveraging the rail will be nice because then I can experiment with some optics. Now the magazine, the red part, appears to go forward. So as you take that and load it in, of course, don't spill those BBs. Careful. Shoot your eye out, kid. Should be 10. Yep.
And not a bad start. I mean, not perfect, but hey, I'll take it. Not that it's that far away. I mean, that was probably about 20 feet. So call it roughly 7 yards.
Putting on the safety, trying to drop out the mag. Let's see what happens here. So like most 1022s, you kind of got to reach up and underneath. The charging handle, I don't even know what that does. Now removing the magazine is quite difficult, at least at first. I don't know if this is going to have a break-in period or what, but getting it out is quite difficult. Now unlike the standard 1022, you don't need to push this lever, but you do need to pull the magazine release out. And it says this needs to be uncocked. I don't know exactly what that means, but I basically just pulled the trigger and let the CO2 out, put the safety on, pulled the lever forward, and just kind of muscled the actual magazine out. Now I'm not sure if that's the intent, but it definitely does not drop out. Now I'm going to load up 10 more. The interesting thing is this is almost like a single action or double action pull, and I'm going to show you that in detail inside. But when you rack the charging handle, that actually makes it more of a single action, and if you don't, it's more of a double action. So the actual charging handle itself, it's not like that's what's loading in around. It's really just changing the weight of the pull on the trigger. So again, loading this, it's going to be just a little bit finicky, but not a big deal. As I pull, this is without the charging handle. I believe that's around 10 pounds of pull, but now pulling the charging handle back, this should be more like 3 pounds. And of course, that's for the first shot. Now again, showing you what I'm talking about, putting this on safe, pulling the lever forward, and trying to get this magazine out. This is not easy. And there you go. So I think it's a matter of pull that trigger and then you can get this back out.
little high, but on target. And so again, you can see, as I mentioned, a little bit high, a little bit left, not a big deal. I will definitely sight in on this through time, but that gives me a good test and a first impression of this 1022.177 or 4.5 millimeter BB. And so now, after some preliminary shots, just a few last final thoughts. And the first thing is the pull on this fairly substantial. Now, at this point, I'm gonna get this magazine back out of here. I'm gonna check this for clear, and I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. And so now, with the magazine clear, everything clear, check this. We will, at this point, get on the trigger. Now, remember I said there's single action and double action. So here I have a Wheeler trigger pull scale. We're gonna use this to figure out the actual pull on this, at least fairly close. So Ruger reporting the double action is roughly about 10 pounds. So zeroing out the scale. Now, this is going to fire, but again, it is clear. And you can see I'm right on the trigger here. So where my finger pad would be on the trigger, and pulling back. You can see it did not fire, and my scale bottoms out at 8 pounds. So again, Ruger reporting this goes to 10 pounds of trigger pull. That's a lot. And I don't know if that's for safety purposes or because of the mechanics inside of this, but 10 pounds I would say is substantial. And again, completely exceeds the values on my scale. Now, to get to single action, you can rack this. So you can use the charging handle and rack it. And supposedly now, this will go to about 3.75 pounds. So again, zeroing out the scale. And we're gonna get on this. Again, finger pad. Here we go. Oh, already broke. That was, I don't know. Let's do it again. So charging the handle. And I mean, this looks to be closer to 2 pounds. So in that regard, if you wanted to lighten up on the trigger pull, you certainly can, but every time you literally have to charge the handle. And that's not really the most conducive to plinking or anything like that. It sort of takes some of the fun out of it. So unfortunately, in my opinion, that heavy trigger pull is going to prevail because the predominant amount of time, that's pretty much what you're going to be doing. So get used to about 10 pounds of trigger pull for this 1022 air rifle edition. Now, other minor differences, for example, here you'll see on the factory stock, there is no hardware for a strap or anything like that, but actually on the air rifle edition, yes. So built right into this, molded right into the buttstock, there you can see does have the ability to put some sort of a ring, and then also on the fore end. So that's going to be cool. Generally speaking, really cool. I think this is going to be neat to experiment with. The only thing about it, I'm just a little bummed about the weight of the trigger pull. Now, in terms of getting this installed into a different stock, at first my belief would be, yeah, you could probably do it based upon the shape of the receiver and the overall geometry. But the one thing that's going to be holding me back is the fact that this has the entire CO2 mechanism built into the buttstock. That is going to be a limitation. I have not done enough research at this point to know whether or not there are other stock options out there. I'm hoping I'm going to find that there are. So the ability to kind of trick this out, make it your own, and then play with other stocks. I would love to find out that somebody like Magpul is making a version of their stock that allows this BB version to convert over. I'm just not sure, and it's something I'm going to have to pay attention to. But all in all, conceptually, I think this is really cool. I'm glad to have it in my hands and for reasonably cheap money. You can get these for literally dirt cheap. I spent just over $100 for this, which is really cool. So to have some flexibility and versatility, the ability to experiment, shoot in my backyard, get some practice, just have some fun, get my kids proficient in gaining good trigger discipline. That's the other thing. Practicing firearm safety. Much better to have something like a BB gun. Yes, could you cause some property damage? Sure. Could you actually hurt or harm somebody? Of course. But bottom line is, this is going to be at least a step in the right direction to gaining proficiency with young children, and I love that about this. And then the fact that I'm going to be able to literally mount things onto this and possibly even swap this out for a different stock.
I'm going to learn a lot about what you can do with this Ruger 1022 .177 or 4.5 millimeter BB edition. And so, all right, guys, there you have it. Again, a look at this 1022. More to come in the future. And so, with that said, this video is done for now. If you like this content, do me a favor. Take a look at my Outer Limitless channel, which is more my primary gear. On that channel, I cover everything from hiking, camping, and backpacking excursions, all the gear that goes with it. So from sleep systems, shelter systems, knives, axes, flashlights, you name it, that's my Outer Limitless YouTube channel. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.